Was it true that as Wolf of Wall Street wrapped, you got the call to do a table reading for The Irishman?
You heard that story? Yeah, that is true.
Same.
So, so yeah, it was crazy. I was completely flabbergasted that I got this phone call saying Marty's got a new script. He's going to do a table read of it, and we need someone to come in and read like all of the women's parts. Is Stephanie available? And I was like, yeah. So I showed up for the reading, not realizing that we were at Tribeca Films. And I walked in and I was like, that's Al Pacino. That is Joe Pesci. That is Robert De Niro. And, it was just it was honestly so overwhelming that I think I just sort of went into like survival mode of like, just look at the page, just read the words. Yeah, I remember. And Drew Barrymore was like in the audience, like watching. It was so overwhelming and amazing. And that's how it all started for me. Yeah.
I got the book. I heard you paint houses. I mean, I read the book right here.
He's really good, right?
It's just like like The Godfather. I mean, the book, just because there's so much more that you can put in a book, the book's always better than the movie.
Always.
And even with 3 hours, I mean 3.5 hours, I mean, there's only so much you can put. And I was one of those guys that had been following The Irishman for, I think it was like 8-9 years in development until it finally came out.
Yeah.
I think initially it was supposed to be The Winter of Frankie Machine. It was a different movie that De Niro was setting, and then
it was a different property, a book completely different. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's all true. And I think that they were, if I'm sort of retelling the story that I've heard Jane Rosenthal, Bob's producing partner, tell at different functions. But if I can remember it correctly, she and Bob and Marty were all on the line with, I want to say it was maybe Paramount. And they were, basically getting ready to sort of green light the original project. And in the midst of all of that happening, Bob read So I Heard You Paint Houses, and he soft pitched it to Marty and was like, actually, you know what? I don't think we should be doing this one. I think we should be doing this one. And when Marty heard Bob talking about how he felt about Charles Brandt's book, So I Heard You Paint Houses, he was like, I knew that was the next movie we had to make together.
Yeah, I mean, I think The Irishman had the most shot scenes. There was some record that it broke. I think it was the most scenes in any movie.
It was, yeah. I believe it was the most locations of any. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, I could be wrong, but I know that Wolf of Wall Street set the record for the most F-bombs in a film, and so I'm very happy to be a part of history on both of those.
So it beat Goodfellas. I think Goodfellas was number one, and then the Wolf of Wall Street took it over then when it came out.
I'm responsible for at least 2 of those, so I'm really proud.
Congrats.
Thanks. Thank you.
Now you get the role. Obviously, filming was a few years afterwards until it finally got into production. Now you got the role. What was the prep work like? You're the wife of the main character. No added pressure. But what was that preparation like?
Honestly, I could say it was super stressful. And the truth is that I did feel a lot of pressure from within myself to be good and to get it right, because I was working with these like legends. But if I tell you the honest truth, none of the pressure came from actually being on set with these guys. Everyone is remarkably relaxed and remarkably, not to say that they aren't working really hard, but they're masters of what they do. And they kind of treated me just like I was one of them. So in terms of my prep work, I spent a tremendous amount of time and energy trying to find out as much as I could about Irene. It was just important to me. She was a real person. Yeah. And I wanted to portray, not just an idea of a person, but a real person. So I was lucky enough to find out through the grapevine that Irene's granddaughter was working in the wardrobe department on the film. And I tracked down Brittany, and I just very politely introduced myself and said, I don't want to be nosy, but if there's anything you can share about your grandmother, it would mean so much to me. I had a very close relationship with my grandmother, and she and I really bonded over that. So I found out a lot of great information from Brittany, and I also was really lucky that Brittany and her mother Connie allowed me to borrow one of Irene's bracelets that I actually wore in the film.
Oh wow.
Which was so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome because I mean, these characters obviously, I mean, the story, it's more of the 70s and 80s, so like you don't really have a lot to kind of. There's not a lot of documentation on these characters, like seeing like things that you can physically see. So being able to go to the actual family member, I mean, that's the great one of the best sources, and you're actually wearing the real life bracelet.
Yeah, and there was an amazing family photographs that were shared with the production, and Christopher Peterson and Sandy Powell, who are the costume designers, shared all their research with me. And so, I tried to build it up off of what I could. There's not a lot of mention of Irene in the book, as you know. And she's a little hard to track down even on the interwebs.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be honest, and it's not just because you were in this scene, but one of my favorite scenes in The Irishman is that bar scene where you and Frank, first see each other, and then you walk away, and then you give him that little look from the behind the bar, and then Joe Pesci just he feels what's going on, and he just gives that line, and he goes, "Things change," and that was that. that was it.
I love it. I know, and that's Steve Zillion's amazing writing. That like he how do you take a book like that and make it a cohesive, even like you said, 3-hour story, but somehow they sure did.
Now Robert and Joe, I mean, they're one of their mythology of acting is doing a lot of improv, and kind of getting the final take. Were you kind of privy to that? Did you have to do a lot of improv in your scenes, or was whatever was written kind of how you did your scenes?
Well, we did sort of both, to be honest with you. In my experience with Marty is really open to improvisation. I think Marty is he adheres to the script, but I think Marty is in his pursuit of sort of truth and authenticity, which I think is just one of the reasons why he's probably one of the best filmmakers ever to live, is that he if he needs to throw out the written dialogue to hit at something that's closer to the truth, he's willing to do it. So there was a fair amount of, we stuck to the script, and what was written on the page always got filmed. But there were, oh my gosh, if you could see the amount of footage of Catherine Narducci, who played Carrie Buffalino, of her and I, Marty would just put the camera on us and just be like, go. There's an amazing scene that we completely improvised that it didn't make it into the final cut, but I was hoping that it would be on like the director's cut at some point, because it's just this fabulous little scene when we're in a restaurant while the guys are doing the scene where he's making the salad, and Joe tells Bob, you got to do it. It's it's time. So maybe the world will get to see that one day. I don't know. I hope so.
Yeah, because when they're in the back, making the salad, you're wondering, where the women are at. I was eventually hoping that we would see them take the salad and then sit down, they can eat. So maybe that scene. So that would have been, I definitely want to see that if it makes it to the director's cut.
Yeah.
You mentioned Catherine Narducci, and I loved her in The Sopranos and A Bronx Tale. She's the best wife, one of the best wife moms you can always see in a movie. What was it like working with her? And I mean, also too, how many cigarettes did you guys smoke in that movie?
Oh my God, so many cigarettes. Thankfully they were those like, what are they, like rosewood or something? I don't know. They're the like herbal cigarettes. Yeah. I call them potpourri. It was like smoking potpourri. But oh my gosh, we went through a lot of those. Narducci, Narducci is exactly in person who you see on camera. Like, she's hilarious. She's like so unbelievably authentically New York. Like, she does not pull any punches. You know exactly where she stands. And I could not love that more about her as a human being. She is, there's a lot of folks in my business who, you're not exactly sure where you stand with them. Do they really like me? Don't they like me? What, are they, interested in talking to me, or are they just being polite or whatever? Narducci is like true blue, completely authentic. If she don't like you, you know it. If she likes you, You know it.
No, absolutely. No, she's amazing. I love her work. And
Yeah, Narducci she is a tremendous talent and a hell of an actress and a hell of a fun person to be friends with.
I gotta ask now because I mean, you got the best vision of this. I mean, you were the wife of Frank Sheeran. Now that you've been in the movie and you've done some research, do you think he actually killed Jimmy Hoffa in real life?
I'll be honest with you. I thought a lot about this because I had to think about it in terms of when I was playing the role. But here's my personal opinion for what it is worth. And my opinion is no more informed than yours because I think you and I had the same source material to determine from. It makes perfect sense to me, the way that he describes it in the book. And sometimes I think that the simplest explanation is usually the truth.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that I don't have a reason not to believe it.
Yeah.
I do think that Frank was a bit of a showboater. And I mean, I know there are certain qualities of his, and certainly a drinker. So I think there are qualities to his personality that you could point at and go, well, that's why it's not true. But based on just the details and everything in the book, I don't feel like there's any reason to disbelieve it.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same boat too. I mean, it's really hard to, and you hear a lot of these interviews that everyone claims they know where Jimmy Hoffa's body is, and they go
Right.
to the location and there's nothing there. This story, seems like it's definitely, out of all the stories that I've heard, one that I can actually believe. So
Right.
yeah.
So you don't think he's buried in like the end zone in Giant Stadium?
No, I don't think so. I think that end zone. I mean, I thought they went there and they looked. They didn't find anything.
Probably did. There's nothing there.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard something just recently on the internet that they have another story on where Jimmy Hoffa is. So it's just ongoing. It's just a never-ending story on. There's no closure just yet. We were hoping.
Well, people love a good mystery. Although I really do feel for like the Hoffa family, never having any kind of closure. But
yeah, that's my take. Is it'd be really good for the family just to get some sense of the dad's not coming back, obviously, but just getting some sense of closure. And I'd be interested to hear kind of what their feedback was on this movie because I was a really big fan of Hoffa, the movie that came out. I think it was in '90 by Jack Nicholson.
oh, yes, yeah, I remember that film.
Yeah, that movie was really good too. So we haven't really gotten any good story on Jimmy Hoffa. And when this movie came out, I was like, man, Al Pacino playing Jimmy Hoffa, that's going to be surreal.
Wasn't he unbelievable?
Yeah.